I can't emphasize enough having that trial. We had a bride once who, after her trial, felt like the makeup didn't look the way she wanted it to a couple hours later. And it opened up this really great conversation between the bride and her artist about skincare and some things that maybe needed to happen before the wedding day to make sure we got that dewy, perfect look. And it was this great collaborative conversation back and forth. I remember the bride called me and was like, I just feel embarrassed having to call with feedback. And I was like, no, this is why we do this. To have the conversation, to talk about the next steps, and to make sure we're all on the same page. And a good professional artist with a good personality is going to hear that feedback and they're going to say, okay, let's get to the right place. They ended up deciding to do a second trial and they got on the same page, and wedding day was literally perfect. Live your life within the moment, and don't go wait until the morning. Welcome to The Wedding Plan. My name is Tyler Spire, and me and my team produce bespoke events across the globe. This podcast is where I share key advice for planning your own wedding, as well as behind-the-scenes adventures and stories from the events we produce. Hey friends, welcome to The Wedding Plan. We are having so much fun right now going through the wedding planning process with my 16 plus years of experience doing this. I am sharing sort of high level ideas, advice, tips, and tricks as you navigate the wedding planning process as a couple. Or if you are a wedding vendor listening along, I hope you're also finding this helpful, whether you are a fellow planner and just kind of taking notes on how we do our process here in the industry, or if you are another vendor just listening along to like the other things that couples are navigating besides maybe the specific thing that you do in the industry. You are all welcome here. We right now are talking about hiring that core vendor team. A few episodes, we talked about hiring the photographer. Then we talked about videographers and sort of content creators and the whole video side of things. Last time we talked about music, and now we are moving on to hair and makeup. I'm talking about these in no particular order, although this is very similar to how we talk to our clients about things and kind of the process we do in booking our core vendors. Core vendors to me are the vendors that are, getting a lot of FaceTime with you as the couple on the day of and during the planning process, and they can make or break the day. So today we're talking about beauty. Now with hair and makeup, just like we've been talking about in other episodes, time is limited. A wedding day is super different than a production or a styled shoot. And we are working with factors that sometimes are out of our control. No matter how perfect the planning is, having a solid hair and makeup team is so important. A hair and makeup artist that is not experienced or not good at working quickly and under pressure can ruin the timeline for the whole day. If you think about it, hair and makeup is one of the first parts of the day. It's often one of the first things that starts in terms of what the couple is doing. And if it gets delayed, even by just like 30 minutes to an hour, it can throw off the timing for the rest of the entire day. And that's why it is so important that when you are booking your team, that you take into account not only the style of the work they do, but also how professional they are and also their personality. So with hair and makeup, we always start with style, right? We'll often work with our brides or the partner that wants hair and makeup and talk about what style are we looking for? Are we wanting something that's super glam? Are we wanting something that's super natural? What are you wanting, and kind of determining what direction we want to go. And then we look at different artists and their portfolios and be like, hey, are any of these, drawing you in? Are you feeling good about any of these? And then just like with the other vendors we've been talking about, that's just the beginning. Then we want to look into professionalism. How clear is the communication? When you submit an inquiry, is the information coming back efficiently? And I'm not saying it needs to come back that same day, but is it coming back within 1 to 2 business days? And is the information succinct and clear? Is it transparent on what the pricing is, how it works? Also, are there good reviews and things like that? We often will have our couples have a call with the hair and makeup person before they book, just again, to see their demeanor, their personality. Now, when we're referring a vendor, it's often because we've worked with them before and they're kind of already meeting all these checkboxes in our mind. But if you, so another great thing is to ask your planner, who do you recommend, right? Because planners are seeing not just the outcome on the day of, but also how is the communication before? How is the billing? How is the scheduling? How is making the hair and makeup schedule? Things like that. How did all of that go? And that all comes into account in a referral. So asking your planner is always a good idea. And making sure that they're professional and also that the personality matches. This is the morning of your wedding is a beautiful, emotional, I would even venture to say sacred time. Like it's just a really amazing time. And some of our clients like it to just be them by themselves. Sometimes it's just them and a parent or a friend. And sometimes it's all the bridesmaids and all the people. And I think it's really important that if you're getting married to kind of think about what you want that morning to look like. And a really important part of that morning is the beauty team helping you look and feel just your best for the day. A few things to think about when booking hair and makeup. One is this something you are hosting for all the people that are going to be with you? Or is it something you're not hosting for the people that are going to be with you? We're finding that more and more clients are hosting it for everyone kind of as a gift to their people, their bridesmaids, their moms, their grandmas, or any other friends or partners that do want hair and makeup services as sort of part of their gift of being in the party. But also we have couples that are like, you know what, we're going to provide this as an option to these people. And I think the distinction is important to make from the beginning. Who are you hosting? If it's everybody, great. If it's not everybody, remember, if you're not hosting it, you don't require someone to do it. So the verbiage would be, if it's hosted, we're so excited to have hair and makeup services at our wedding, and we want you to know that we're gifting you hair and makeup. We'll give you an assigned time as we get closer, but just wanted to let you know for planning purposes that we'll be covering that for you. If you're not hosting it, a good verbiage is to be, we are going to have hair and makeup services available for our wedding. The cost of getting your hair done is this. The cost of getting your makeup done is this. Let us know if that's something you're interested in, and we'll go ahead and reserve a spot for you on the calendar. Key here is you are required to do this and it will cost this. That would be rude. Saying, let us know if you'd like to make a reservation for this shows that it's an option. And even if it's an encouraged option, shows that it's an option, because if it's not hosted, you don't want to require it from any of your loved ones. Next up is thinking about what you want the morning to look like. I alluded to this a little earlier, and I love when we have brides or couples that want all of their people all around them all morning, especially for our extroverted couples. Like, great, that's amazing. And I think that there's sort of been this movement in the industry. Like when you think about getting ready and you see the photos and you look it up, you're seeing people in matching pajamas and matching bathrobes and this whole morning and brunch and champagne and all these photos and all these things. And that's great. And that works for some people. What I want to empower you to think about is what will work for you. We have some clients who would rather have just a really quiet morning. Maybe it's just you and your parent, your mom. Maybe it's you and your mom and your maid of honor, your sister. Or maybe your mom and your sister stressed you out and it's just you and a best friend. Like, I don't know. You can craft the morning to be whatever you want it to be, right? You can get ready with a small group and then invite the bigger group later. You could start with a big group for brunch and then be like, hey, everybody go your separate ways. We'll see you all when it's time for photos. Talk to your planner. Think about it. Sink into your gut. And think about how you want that morning to be and how you want it to feel. And then feel empowered to craft it in that way. And I think it's important to know what you want there so that you can communicate effectively. Because often the expectation, if you are having a bridal party, if you are, if you're having family get hair and makeup, people kind of immediately assume that, oh, we're all going to be together. We've had some clients who we've booked a completely separate room and we've created like a beauty bar where you like go for your appointment and get your hair and makeup done, and then you can go back to your own hotel room. We did that for the bride and everybody, so people could have a mix of being all together and also being separate. I also think there's sort of this like misconception that everybody has to get there at 8 a.m. and stay in the same room until 2 p.m. And unless you're an extrovert and all your friends are like, yeah, that sounds amazing. To me, that sounds like a lot of time in one space. So we'll often encourage our couples, assign people who are more early birds the early morning time slots, assign, people who like to sleep in the later time slot. People can come in and kind of go out as they need to. And obviously this is venue specific. It's going to depend if you're all at the same hotel, if you're all at a remote venue or things like that. But craft the morning how you want it to be. Another question to ask yourself in this booking process is, in addition to your VIPs, do you want your guests to be able to have hair and makeup services? A lot of hair and makeup companies are offering what we like to call beauty bars. And this can be something that's not even hosted by you, but maybe like if in the morning, say you're in hair and makeup from 8 to noon, just using hypothetical, and you have a bunch of wedding guests that have traveled from far and are going to want to get their hair and makeup done, you can create a beauty bar with the same hair and makeup team or a different hair and makeup team where your guests can sign up for time slots. And often this isn't hosted. So you send communication to your guests ahead of time. We are making hair and makeup services available by creating our own custom salon in the hotel with a beauty team. Hair costs this, makeup costs this. Click on this link or email this person or do this if you are interested in signing up for one of these appointments. And that can be a really fun way to just add that extra layer of hospitality for your guests. We've actually had some clients host it for their guests, and that's super fun. And if that works for you, I think that's a really fun layer of hospitality to add. But also just making it available, I think, is really great. Keep in mind, you are not obligated to make it available for your guests. I do think that while it's a really nice touch, it's not something that's rude if you don't offer it. So that's something else to keep in mind. Another thing to think about with hair and makeup is touch-ups. So a lot of hair and makeup proposals, when you get them, there's a price associated with maybe the bride, with bridesmaids, all the things. And what that's including is doing the hair and makeup and then the artists leave. And for some people that works. But most people want to have an artist on site who right before you go down the aisle is going to touch up your hair and makeup, who right after you're done with the ceremony, maybe there were some tears and you need a touch up before those family photos or whatever it is. So it's important to ask, if it's not clearly specified, about touch-ups and how much they cost and how it works. There's usually a minimum set of hours for touch-ups. So, maybe it's 2 hours at a certain rate. Sometimes they have to be consecutive. So if the artists finish at 1 and you want them to stay till 6, sometimes you have to pay for 6 hours. Sometimes they're willing to go and come back. I mean, every artist is a little different, but making sure you ask about touch-ups is important. We highly encourage our couples to have touch-ups because you never know. Tears, if it's a hot day and you got a little sweaty, if it was rainy and something there's humidity, whatever it is, having someone there to make sure that you look and feel beautiful, I think is really important. Another thing kind of involved with touch-ups is thinking about, are you going to change your style? We have a lot of clients who maybe after the ceremony or after dinner or at some point in the evening are going to want to change their style. Maybe your hair was down and now you want it up, or you had it up and now you want it down, or in a ponytail, or whatever it is. There's all sorts of things we've seen. But if you're going to want a hair change, having someone stay for touch-ups and specifying that as a part of those touch-ups you want a hairstyle change is really important. Most hair and makeup artists do not offer a trial before you book them. Now, some do, and the industry is different across the country and across the world. But regardless of whether it's before you sign on the dotted line or after you sign on the dotted line, I think that having a trial for your wedding is absolutely necessary. Just like having an engagement shoot with your photographer ahead of time, having that trial allows you to meet the artist, not for the first time on your wedding morning. It allows you to meet them ahead of time. It allows you to get a sense of their personality, and it allows you to have exactly what that is, a trial run to make sure that you are feeling beautiful and that your vision for your hair and makeup is met. Your professional hair and makeup artist is going to walk you through things like, maybe you have a vision for your hair, but it's not doable in your hair unless you have extensions or things like that. It's going to help you identify all of those things ahead of time, so you're on the same page. And by the time you get to the wedding day, you're like, we are ready to go. Every once in a while, I have clients who have a trial and they don't love their trial. And again, I think that's why it's so important to have the trial, because if you walk out of it not loving it, I'm always like, well, thank goodness it's not wedding day, because if you walked out on your wedding day not loving it, that involves stress. It involves maybe redoing some things. It involves maybe feeling awkward. And so having the trial is so important. And if you don't love the trial, 99% of the time, it means we just need to have some clear communication. Okay, I feel like the hairstyle looked like this and I wanted it to look more like this. Or can we talk about how to make the makeup do this? And just having that open, clear communication in order to make it right on wedding day. And every once in a while, this has happened to me maybe twice in 16 years after the trial, I've had a client be like, I can't work with this person, we need to change it. Just like I've had this happen after an engagement session once, where a couple was like, we thought we loved the photographer, but after that it was not the right fit. And that's the beauty of the trial, is you have the ability to do a major course correct if you have to, although ideally it's more of a communication on how to make it better. Communication is so important. This is with any vendor, but especially with hair and makeup, before you even go to your trial. I think it's important to send some images, maybe have a conversation and talk about the way you want your hair and makeup to look and to feel. And this involves some introspection on your part, thinking about like the style you like, thinking about things you're drawn to, maybe thinking about a time in your life you've had your hair and makeup done that you just really loved it. And having that communication, sending some images is so important. We had a client once go to their trial, and at the end of their trial, they were like, I hated it. And we were like, did you talk to the artist beforehand about what you wanted? And they're like, no, I just said like, do whatever you think. And we were like, okay, like that's fine. But if you say to someone, do whatever you think in this subjective world of creativity, they might do something and you may not like it. And if with no creative direction, they're unable to kind of narrow down what you're looking for. And so if you are someone who's like, I have no idea what I want, then maybe it merits a call with your makeup artist or a Zoom or an in-person meeting being like, hey, I don't even know what I want. This is what my fashion looks like. This is kind of what I'm thinking. What do you think will look good for me? Here's some images. And having that good communication, I think, is so important. Again, I can't emphasize enough having that trial, but I think having the trial also gives you the opportunity. We had a bride once who, like, after her trial felt like the makeup didn't look the way she wanted it to a couple hours later. And she was able to say, hey, this is like concerning to me because on my wedding day, I don't want to like have it look this way after a couple hours. And it opened up this really great conversation between the bride and her artist about skincare and some things that maybe needed to happen before the wedding day to make sure we got that dewy, perfect look. And it was this great collaborative conversation back and forth. I remember the bride called me and was like, I just feel embarrassed having to call with feedback. Like, I know this is a professional, but I just like, I'm not liking the way this is looking. And I was like, no, this is why we do this. To have the conversation, to talk about the next steps, and to make sure we're all on the same page. And a good professional artist with a good personality is going to hear that feedback. And even if they kind of disagree with it, or they're going to keep that to themselves, and they're going to say, okay, let's have a conversation about this. Let's learn together. Let's get to the right place. And this one led to a whole conversation about skincare and all these things. They ended up deciding to do a second trial, which is also a possibility. You pay for it often, but it's a possibility. It's important to remember we want to pay our vendors for the work they're doing. You often pay for your trial. You'd pay for a second trial. And they got on the same page, and wedding day was literally perfect. It was amazing. The last thing in booking hair and makeup is thinking about the services you're going to want that weekend. A lot of our clients are wanting to get their hair and makeup done for the rehearsal dinner, also for the wedding, and maybe even for brunch as well. And so having that conversation with your hair and makeup team from the beginning is important. A lot of hair and makeup teams have service minimums. So maybe on wedding day, you're meeting that service minimum, but if you're not meeting the minimum on another day, it's a higher fee, or maybe they will make you go to the salon instead of going to the hotel, or whatever it is. Everything's a little different. The key thing here is coming in with just clear expectations of what you want the morning to look like. Who's getting hosted hair and makeup, who's not. Does the hair and makeup team have the ability to add on sort of like a salon or spa or client sort of concierge for your guests? That's amazing if so, and something you can consider. Your guests could pay for that on their own, or you could consider hosting it. And then talking about style, having clear communication, having that trial, and basically, having really good, clear communication. Because again, in the world of beauty and creativity, a lot of things are subjective. An artist may look at your face and say, this is an amazing way to bring out this feature or do this, and you may not like that. And having that communication back and forth is so important. And then knowing, are you going to need services all weekend? Is it just for that day? And things like that. Or even being able to ask the artist, I know I want it for the day of, do I have the option to add on the day before or later? And again, keeping that communication really clear. So in addition to style, personality and professionalism matters so much, and having a good hair and makeup team can just really make or break the day. A good hair and makeup team is like calming and infusing joy into the process, not creating drama. They're staying on time. They're helping you. When something unexpected comes up, maybe your hair took a little longer, something came up, they're rolling with it, they're going with you, and they're just making you feel so comfortable. And that's why it's just so important to have a really solid team.
Live your life within the moment, and don't go wait until the morning. You never know when it is over. All that I know is we'll get older. So let us dance this night away.